What's going on, guys? It's the Filthy Casual, back with another Diablo 3 video. Today we're looking at the LON Blood Nova 2.0, which is now live for Season 17. Now I've reworked the build and we've improved the single target DPS tremendously. The build is now really consistent, 3-minute speedruns regardless of the map, mob type. It's got the toughness to take on spear chuckers, grotesque, succubus. I'm doing GR79s, which is what you'll be seeing in the background, and that's with only 700 Paragon, 12 out of the 13 slots as Ancient, and definitely some improved rolls I can get on my gear, which we'll go through. Now it's got amazing trash clear, it's got great single target, it's a boatload of fun to play, you've got tremendous uptime on Crispins, crazy uptime on all of your other abilities, and I reckon that with some Paragon, with some augments, you'll probably be hitting GR90 with this, maybe going past that if you're a really dedicated player, but I don't see there's any reason why you can't get that high. And also it's tremendous for hardcore because it's just so tough and so tanky. So Necro, Tanky don't normally go together. Necro Tanky speed build probably doesn't normally go together, but trust me guys, it is pretty tough. So if you're a bit frustrated playing Singularity speed mages and you're frustrated with dying, or you fancy a break, then hopefully it's going to be a build that you'll find useful. And as I say, it's a lot of fun. Now before we jump in, I just want to say welcome to all the new subscribers. The channel has grown past 4,500 subs, which is absolutely amazing. Can't believe the response to the recent videos, it's been absolutely brilliant. So if you're new, welcome, and if you're really new, hit that subscribe button and there'll be some more videos coming soon. Now guys, last thing before we get going is there will be a D3 planner link to the GR version and the T16 variant, so you don't need to worry about pausing the video or watching it back. If you just want to come back, check those links out in the description and I'll give you a full written guide to the build with all the correct gear and stat priorities. Now the original Blood Nova video did pretty well, it was a fun build, and you're probably thinking why on earth have we reworked it? Well, there's one main reason really, which is the mechanic has changed. Now in the classic build we used the Siphon Blood generator and the Iron Rose offhand, and what that did is it gave you a free Blood Nova whenever you clicked for Siphon Blood. Now unfortunately from the first round of PTR to the second they changed that mechanic so you couldn't just simply click spam it. So now when you click Siphon Blood it doesn't automatically cast a Blood Nova straight away, there's a little bit of a delay on it. So you have to stand there and channel Siphon Blood for a little bit, and that just makes it feel a bit slow and clunky, not really conducive to a speed build. The second change that they've made is they've actually nerfed the proc rate if you hold the button down as well. So it used to be that if you held Siphon Blood down it would go off like a machine gun, and obviously you had issues with your bone armor reduction, but you could really spit a lot of Blood Novas out in a really short space of time. Again, that's changed, it's now about 6 per second, and it's not a bad build to run it that way, it's just the way that we've changed it just makes it feel an awful lot better. So I personally like my speed builds to play really smooth, so what we're going to do is we're going to dump Siphon Blood, we're going to dump the Iron Rose, and we're going to take the Death Nova, Blood Nova as a spender, which is great because that allows us to work in the Zodiac Ring, and that's what gives us crazy uptime on Land of the Dead, which is going to be our mechanism for killing single target, Juggernaut, and any enemies that scatter or just generally create a problem. So it's a high CDR based build, but we're going to have lots of uptime on all of our abilities, again mainly because of the Zodiac Ring. So I think today what we'll do is we'll jump in and do the gear, and then we'll look at the skills afterwards because the gear probably allows for a good explanation. Now bear in mind guys, this is Season 17, so we have the Legacy of Nightmares book active, so 750% weapon damage per ancient item equipped. You want all 13 slots as ancient, and we also get 4% damage reduction. Now with all the slots filled, that's 9,750%, which is a pretty big multiplier, so that just goes flatly across everything. Now if you're going to try and run this build off season, it's not going to work, I'm afraid. You need all 3 ling slots to fill with bits and bobs. You can't get away with just one, so for next season we will rework the build, but for now it's a seasonal one. So Death Nova is going to be the main damage dealer for trash, so we're going to juice this up with the Blood Tide Blade. Death Nova now deals 400% increased damage for every enemy within 25 yards. You can get stacks of enemies in this space, and coincidentally the Blood Nova has got a radius of 25 yards, so if you can hit them, they're in that range and they're benefiting from this. Now this is huge, it can, if you get 10 enemies in that space, go up to 4,000%, and it just decimates trash. If you get multiple enemies together, it really will just absolutely blast them. Now we're also going to juice it up with the Scythe of the Cycle. That again is a 400% multiplier, but just the once, so not dependent on the number of enemies. But you do have to have your bone armor up. So on the bar here we've got bone armor, that has to be active for your Scythe of the Cycle to work, and it only works with secondary abilities. But fortunately Death Nova, Blood Nova is a secondary, so provided bone armor's up, we're going to get another 400% damage. So that's how we're going to juice up the Trash Clear. And then for the single target, we're going to juice up Corpse Lance with Corpse Whisper Pauldrons. So when we consume corpses, this gives a stacking effect up to 600% increased damage. And also we're going to be taking the Johnstone, so at the end of our first Land of the Dead cycle we get 50 macabre stacks. So if we just pop it now, the little icon will appear in a couple of seconds. That'll give us up to 200% extra damage on every Corpse Lance for the next 50 that we use. Now you won't use 50 Corpse Lances by the time you refresh Land of the Dead, so it effectively means you've got a 200% bonus for the entirety of the time. Now the other really important item for Necros is going to be your Crispins. Now this gives a double damage effect essentially against slowed enemies, and triple the bonus against any other control impairing effect. So your slow is procced by your Bane of the Trapped, so provided anything is in 15 yards, you've got this slowing aura around you, which is great, so that's going to proc that bit. And then any other CC, well, we're going to use Stun on the Dislocation, and we're going to use Freeze on the Frozen Lands, Lands of the Dead. So if an enemy is affected by either of these two things, they're going to take this 300% extra damage from your Crispins. Now also we've got Convention of Elements, so that again is another multiplier, so when it rolls around onto physical we're going to get 200% extra damage. Both of our corpse skills here, Corpse Lance and Death Nova, are physical, so yeah, once that rolls around onto physical, 200% there. Looking at the rest of the gear for damage wise, we're going to be taking Witching Hour. This is just for the crit hit damage. We'll go through some swaps once I've done the skills, but basically this will give you just a little bit more damage. In the cube we've also got the Aquila Cuirass. This is going to give us a 50% damage reduction. When we look at the skills, we'll explain how we're keeping it max essence the whole way, even though we are using a spender, which is Death Nova. For your helm, we're going to want Leoric's Crown. This is a cooldown based build, so obviously Leoric's Crown is great. It gives us up to double the value of the gem in the helm. I've been really lazy this season. I haven't done any bounties, which is obviously shocking because now it's the season of LON. So I haven't got the plan to rank this up to max level, which I will get at some point. But yeah, extra 12.5% cooldown. So, best in slot definitely, not essential. Any ancient helm can go here until you find yourself a Leoric's. And obviously shout out to RNGesus for such a lovely crown for me. Chest piece, Requiem Cereplate. When we use Devour, we're going to get up to an extra 100% essence and life, and this is really important, which we'll go through when we get the skills. But basically, when we devour corpses, we're getting almost double life and double essence from them, so that's really handy. Braces, Nemesis Braces, very important because it's a speed build, so until you get an ancient pair, any old ancient braces will go here, but it's going to give you more champ packs, more elite packs. Just you click the pylon, click the shrine, and they appear. Just makes the build a lot quicker. Trousers, anything will do. Best in slot would probably be Swampland Raiders, and you get a 20% physical bonus on them, but you'd have to roll yourself a Witch Doctor and upgrade pants until you hit them. Again, I just haven't been, I haven't bothered. I've just been too lazy, and again, I haven't even ranked up my intelligence gems in here, which again is on the list of stuff to do. Boots, Stewart's Greaves, these are here just for mobility, so whenever we blood rush we get 100% move speed for 10 seconds. You'll be blood rushing a fair bit, probably within 10 seconds, so it's kind of like having double move speed the entire time. Extra 100% is really handy. Zodiac Ring, obviously we've covered. We need the Death Nova to be a spender, and then what that will do is that because our skills, when we go through them, you'll see that we've only got 3 on cooldown, which are these 3 here. It means that Bone Armor's up quite a lot of the time, Blood Rush is available pretty much whenever we want it, and then the rest of the procs get funneled to Land of the Dead, which is what allows us to use the Corpse Lance and single target. So absolutely essential piece of gear there. And then Gloves is quite open. I've again been really lucky. Thank you, Orange users. Got this really nice pair of Trags gloves, so I've been using those. But I would say best in slot is probably going to be a St. Archie's gauge, just because it's going to give you that little bit of toughness. And I suppose whilst we're down here, we may as well do the swap for the belt. So belt wise, you could also go with the Vigilante belt, and that would give you some extra cooldown. That would certainly be a good shout. I haven't found an ancient one yet this season. Or string of ears maybe for a little bit of extra toughness, but to be honest, the build does seem pretty tough, so I don't really see that you need it. But again, if you found that as an ancient, you can use it. And Krelms, again, I haven't found any of, well, salvage the ones that I have found, but Krelms will give you an extra bit of run speed. So again, the belt's not mega essential. Now if you're doing hardcore and you want to be super safe, you can swap out your convention of elements for a unity, and that will give you double toughness, provided your follower also had one, and they also have the token that puts them invulnerable. And then the last piece of gear that we've got is going to be your offhand. This is just a stat stick, so just a well-rolled offhand. We'll go through the stat priorities later, but an ancient one, and just make sure it's got pretty good stats on it. And that should pretty much do the gear. So if we have a look at the skills, particularly in light of the gear that we've just gone through, Death Nova, Blood Nova, 450% weapon damage to enemies within 25 yards. Now this is definitely the best room for this because it's got such a big area. 25 yards is quite a decent chunk. 10% health cost sounds a lot, 20% essence, but we'll make that back with the rest of the skills. Now Corpse Lance, Blood Lance, again it's got a health cost to it, but it's not really particularly important because you'll only be using it when you've activated Land of the Dead. So once you've activated Land of the Dead, you get infinite corpse skills, which allows you to fire the Corpse Lances, but you also get your Devour going off constantly because we're going to numlock this. So when you press Land of the Dead, Devour automatically goes off, so you can Corpse Lance as much as possible. And really, with the Seraplate, you're going to be getting 6% health and 20 essence per kill. So as you can see, Death Nova has got a 10% health cost and 20 essence. So provided you kill one single enemy with Death Nova, you're making the essence back with your corpse consumed from Devour, and you're making a good chunk of your health back. So this synergizes really well with Dark Reaping. So again, provided you're using a scythe, if you're killing stuff, 2% essence and life per kill. So you've got 6% from Devour, 2% from Dark Reaping, so you're making 8% of your life back every time you kill with Death Nova. And obviously the way it works is you're kind of going to blow up more than one enemy at a time, so it's kind of like it's free because you'll just blow up enemies and your essence and health will just come back so quickly that neither will really look like they're moving too much, albeit they will constantly be going down and back up, but you just won't feel it. Now Land of the Dead is obviously important because if we've numlocked Devour, we can't use Corpse Lance unless we press Land of the Dead. So this will Devour will suck up all your corpses, so you can't really use single target without Land of the Dead, which is a bit of a bummer, but it comes back very quickly, and to be honest, you'll see from the footage that it's not too much of a problem. Bone Armor Dislocation. This is great because it gives us a 30% damage reduction, and it also stuns enemies. This is our main Crispin's proc, and now it's on a 10-second cooldown, but it comes back pretty quickly. So if you pop it now, it comes back within about 5 seconds or so, given the CDR that we've got in the build. And when you factor in the Zodiac procs as well, this will be up pretty quick. So your kind of rotation is Death Nova. Well, you'll pop Bone Armor to stun them, blow them up with Death Nova, and once you've used a couple of Death Novas, you'll be ready to pop your Bone Armor again, and you just kind of keep on going like that. Blood rushing every so often, to get your Stewart's Greaves. Now the rune for Blood Rush is potency. This is quite important because the armor buff is huge for the Necro. So again, if you kind of pop it and it comes back pretty quick, and you can see the armor buff kind of lasts for about the amount of time that the cooldown is on. So again, just one proc from your Zodiac and it's back up, so it's kind of like having double armor on demand, and that's really handy for the Necro. And it ties in really well with Standalone, which is a passive we're going to take that doubles our armor because we've got no minions, so we're kind of getting double armor and then double armor again. So that's really handy. These two things make this build really tough for physical damage, which is great because Spear Chuckers, Grotesques, they're really annoying for the Necro. You're so squishy, You do get torn to bits by them, but with these two things, it means you can take them on. Blood is power. This is a really crucial passive. It basically gives you an extra 20% CDR if you lose 100% of your life. That's really easy to do because you're chucking out Death Nova all the time, you're porting around. Both of these things have a health cost. You will be taking damage because it's a melee build, you're up close and personal. Even when you're corpse lancing, you're spending health, each click is 2%. So the idea is that it will always give you that 20% reduction on Land of the Dead because you just spend so much life. Sometimes it'll proc on the bone armor because it's on 5 seconds, and you probably won't get it on Blood Rush just because it comes back so quick. But that's fine. Land of the Dead is the main sort of thing that you need the cooldown for, so that's really handy. Now, Final Service is probably the least important passive. It's a game of random stuff. You can get sucked into fireballs, arcane beams. You can, get stuck by Waller, all sorts of stuff. So I tend to leave this on just because dying personally frustrates me. But if you want to take it off, Fueled by Death would be a really good choice. That would give you an extra 30% move speed. Because of your Numlock Devour, you will constantly be consuming corpses. So that's pretty much the skills. Now, legendary gem wise, Bane of the Trapped we've covered. It's a close range build, so that seems to make an awful lot of sense. You just get that flat damage increase. Now, Esoteric Alteration, this is quite important because mine's rank 80, so that's like a flat 50% reduction to any non-physical damage. Now, with the two armor items we've got, they protect us from physical, this protects us from non-physical, so it's really useful and it really does help make us considerably tough. And again, that secondary again is really nice. When you do go below 50% life, your toughness shoots up, so it's there when you really need it. And then the last legendary gem that I've gone for is Bane of the Powerful, just for the extra damage against elites, extra damage flatly once you kill an elite, and also reduced damage from elites. So it is a really, really nice gem. You can swap this one out, Gogok of Swiftness if you wanted a bit more cooldown. It would not be the worst choice in the world, and you could also take the Gizzard if you wanted to get a little bit more regen in there. But that should pretty much cover the main, gear, skills, legendary gems, that sort of stuff. Now guys, there will be a D3 planner link as I said at the start of the video, so that will have all the stat rules on there that I think are ideal, but I will go through my gear and we'll just have a little chat about the stats. Number one stat priority is cooldown. You need that pretty much everywhere you can get it, so my CDR is 50%, that's what you're going to be aiming for. Mine could be higher, but 50% CDR should be that. So you want a Scythe of the Cycle, you want to put a socket in it, cooldown, intelligence. I've got vitality on here. 1000 vitality does increase your toughness quite a lot. I probably would prefer 10% damage, but it's not perfect, but it's still early season for me. For your rings, ideally you would want socket, cooldown, and crit and main stat on your Crispins, and on your Zodiac, socket, crit and cooldown if you can get them. For your gloves, double crit, cooldown. Intelligence is fine for the moment. Area damage would be really nice for your Death Nova, but it's not essential. I don't have any on my gear, and as you can see, the rifts are pretty doable. Attack speed again would only really benefit your Corpse Lance, so I probably wouldn't roll it. For your Corpse Whisper Pauldrons, try and get Corpse Lance damage on there. I wouldn't pick up that anywhere else because it seems to make sense to have this on your shoulders because you're only ever going to use Corpse Lance with Corpse Whisper Pauldrons. I've gone full defensive stats for the rest of it, so int, vite and life. I suppose intelligence is offensive as well, but yeah, another really good drop from Orange users. For your Lyrics Crown, ideal would be int, vitality, crit and a socket. I've rolled Death Nova damage, and that is because I'm missing it on my boots. So for your boots, you would want int, vit, armor, and Death Nova damage. And then the other place I'd be getting Death Nova damage would be my offhand. So I think this ideally would be damage, intelligence, vitality, crit hit chance, and Death Nova damage. But it is what it is. For your braces, you want physical skills, intelligence, and then probably armor or vitality and crit chance. For your Johnstone, you want socket, crit and physical skills. So you probably could get away without a Corpse Lance roll. Like if my if my secondary was not 158%, if it was higher, I could probably get away with rolling off the corpse lance damage on the shoulders, but I just feel like you need that little bit of extra punch just to make sure you get any enemies done with the corpse lance that you want. For your Sarah plate, full defensive stats. This is not particularly well rolled at all, this one, so you'd want int vit and then probably vitality or armor rather than all res. For your witching hour, the ideal would be int vit crit damage, and then you want to roll off the attack speed for another defensive stat. For your pants, completely fully defensive stats, and obviously if you're going for the swamplands you want the 20%, and I think that pretty much should do all the items. Now if you want to swap this into a T16 build, what I tend to do is I will put on the gold wrap, so I will dump the witching hour, I will dump the esoteric alteration, and I will put in a boon of the hoarder, and that will allow me to basically be invulnerable when I pick up gold. I will also dump the Bane of the Powerful, just because you don't really need the damage or the damage reduction. And I will put in a Wreath of Lightning, and that will make me run super quick whenever I destroy anything, with the lightning bolts. Now what I would also change for T16 is I would take out the Aquila Cuirass, and I would probably run the arm guards. That's what will be in the footage in the background. And that will basically make you run super quick whenever you destroy anything, and that's really handy. Now you can take a broken crown in your armor slot if you wanted extra gems. If you're not that bothered about the build functioning well, you can stick a emerald in your helm and get extra gold. So really it kind of depends, what is it you're short on? Are you short on gold? Are you short on gems? Are you short on keys? And then you kind of tailor the build how you want. So in terms of playstyle, guys, you need to activate Land of the Dead as soon as you get into the Rift. This is primarily to get your Johnstone bonus ready for the next time you want to use Land of the Dead. You can save it if you want till you get to an elite, but I tend to find that it's probably useful to just do it straight away, but I suppose a bit of a judgment call. You can use your Death Nova to blow up trash, so any 2 or 3 enemies linked together, Death Nova is going to be the way to go. And then Corpse Lance and Land of the Dead for any enemies that run away, juggernauts, anything that's going to be a problem, you just pop it and then just delete it with Corpse Lance. Now don't be scared about overusing this, because it does come back really quickly, particularly with the Zodiac, and the only time you've really got to be careful is the last 30 seconds or so of a Rift, because if you do pop the Rift Guardian and you don't have access to Land of the Dead, you pretty much can't kill them because the Death Nova just doesn't hit hard enough. Now you can obviously use your Death Nova to bring Land of the Dead up, so you'll use it to reduce the cooldown, but what you need to bear in mind is that if you're not killing things, you're not benefiting from Devour, so you're not getting health back, so it's going to cost 10% health every time you chuck one out. It's also going to cost essence, and your Aquila Cuirass bonus will drop off. So that's about the only thing that can really go wrong. But yeah, you get used to the rhythm of it. It's pretty much stun with bone armor, blow it with Death Nova, stun with bone armor, blow it with Death Nova, enemy that looks problematic, Land of the Dead, Corpse Lance, and then blow it with Death Nova. Now obviously you don't need to activate bone armor whilst Land of the Dead's up, because you've got the automatic freeze. You just need to make sure it doesn't drop off if you overspam the Death Nova, but it's rare that that'll happen, and you will get used to it. So guys, I will leave you now with the GR80. This is with the gear that I've currently got. All the rest of the footage was with this original shoulder set. But yeah, the GR80, as you can see, I got off to a poor start. It's a juggernaut straight away without having my Johnstone bonus, but it still goes pretty smooth. It's about 3.5 minutes. The map layout is crap. It's not a particularly amazing map, but I just wanted to give you kind of how this looks at its worst almost for the clear. So I hope you enjoy it. Leave a thumbs up if you've enjoyed the build. Subscribe for some more videos. I've been the Filthy Casual, and I'll catch you in the next video. Peace.